That spiritual sky is far beyond the material sky, and it is confirmed also in Bhagavad-gītā that beyond this material sky there is another, eternal sky. The enemies and the impersonalists may be allowed to enter into this Brahman effulgence, but the devotees of Krishna are promoted all the way to the spiritual planets. Because the pure devotees have developed their spontaneous love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are allowed to enter into the spiritual planets to enjoy spiritual bliss in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because they have developed spontaneous love. See, it doesn't say here that if you follow the path of regulated devotional service that you can attain Vaikunthas or the spiritual world. It says if you follow the path of spontaneous devotional service. This is the verdict of Vedānta-sūtra also. Vedānta-sūtra draws a distinction between regulated and spontaneous devotional service, and it clearly states that the spontaneous devotees are higher. They are the ones who attain the spiritual world. The others are still in the stage of practice. In the 10th canto, 87th chapter, verse 23 of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the Vedas personified address the Lord in this way. My dear Lord, yogis meditate upon your localized feature, and thus they achieve the spiritual perfection of being merged in the impersonal Brahma-jyoti. Persons who treat you as an enemy achieve the same perfection without meditating. The gopis, who are embraced by your serpentine hands and who have such lusty attitudes, also achieve the same perfection. And as far as we are concerned, being different demigods in charge of different parts of the Vedic knowledge, we are always following in the footsteps of the gopis. Thus we hope to attain the same perfection. By the same perfection, we must always remember the example of the sun and the sunshine. Those who are impersonalists can merge into the sunshine like Brahma-jyoti, whereas those who are in love with the Supreme Person enter into the supreme abode of the Lord, Goloka Vrindavan. The lusty attitude of the gopis does not refer to any sort of sex indulgence. Srila Rupa Goswami explains that this lusty desire refers to the devotee's particular attitude of association with Krishna. Every devotee in his perfectional stage has a spontaneous attraction to the Lord. This attraction is sometimes called the lusty desire of the devotee. Sometimes it's also called greed, lobha. The lust is the devotee's excessive desire to serve the Lord in a particular capacity. Such a desire may seem to be a desire for enjoying the Lord, but actually the endeavor is to serve the Lord in that capacity. For example, a devotee may be desiring to associate with the personality of Godhead as his cowherd friend. He will want to serve the Lord by assisting him in controlling the cows in the pasturing ground. This may appear to be a desire to enjoy the company of the Lord, but actually it is spontaneous love, serving him by assisting in managing the transcendental cows. So this is an elaborate subject that will be analyzed in tremendous detail in the rest of the Nectar of Devotion. What is this mood of service, this mood of spontaneous love that the devotee displays toward the Lord, and which is so attractive to the Lord that the Lord brings him into his personal abode for direct association with him? What is this? It's love, of course. But there are many, many different flavors and stages of love. And the Nectar of Devotion analyzes all of these stages, flavors, and types of love and service and attraction, and the symptoms of each of them. This is why Nectar of Devotion is so valuable, such a wonderful book. It is like, you could call it a field guide to the self-realized souls. So you can recognize them. You see? How are we going to recognize a self-realized soul? Because sometimes they don't observe the regulative principles very exactly. Actually, most of the time. Most of the time, they simply serve Krishna in their own way, according to their realization. They don't go by the book. They write the book. You see the difference? Just like we were talking the other day about a student musician and a master musician. A student musician has to follow the rules. But the master musician knows when to break the rules. I mean, just look at, like Miles Davis, for example. Miles Davis, he grew up in bebop. And then one day, he came out with this record called The Birth of the Cool. And this was like completely opposite of bebop. Bebop was a frenetic, the faster the better, and the more chords and the more changes, the better. And then suddenly Miles comes out with this whole Birth of the Cool thing, which is less is more. Right? He was trying to say everything that the beboppers were saying by all these notes. He was trying to say, he would say it with one note. And he had the chops to do it too. Miles Davis had incredible chops. Incredible. He would warm up. In fact, he's the only jazz player that I know, besides myself, who would actually warm up for 2 or 3 hours every day before a gig. 2 or 3 hours. And because of that, he had impeccable control of his tone and like that. So, see, he became such a master that he could throw out the rules. He could throw out bebop and come out with a whole new kind of jazz, which eventually became known as progressive jazz. And so many, big artists built on his breakthrough. And then later on, again, in the 90s, he changed again. And he threw out this cool stuff. And then he went into this whole new bag that was like totally new, which nobody really could even follow, because it was so original and so striking and new. Picasso, another good example. In the beginning, Picasso was kind of a regular art school type painter. And then all of a sudden he came up with this cubism, And in cubism, you're seeing the same person, like a face, from 2 different directions at the same time. It's really cool. It's like he's put an element of time into a painting. You look at something from this side, then you go over here and you look at it from that side, and those 2 views are separated in time. But he collapsed them into one view. And that was his contribution. So he actually expanded the art of painting, or the vision behind painting, into another dimension. It's really cool what he did. And then after a while, he gave up on cubism and he started something else. Abstract expressionism. See? So these really great artists, they know how to break the rules. In fact, they can completely throw out the rules and write a whole new rule book. So the devotees who are really great, who are self-realized, they do the same thing or something very similar. They have a unique, direct, personal relationship with the Lord. So they don't need to look in the book and say, okay, well, rule number 37, part A, they don't need that. They follow their realization because they're directly in touch with the Lord. See? It's a whole different thing. It's not that I'm looking outside myself to see how I should be a devotee. Oh, this devotee's doing this, and this devotee's doing that, and it says in this book here, I should do this and that, and like that. That's looking outside. That's religion. See? Religion actually distracts you from God. Because religion says you have to look out through the senses and measure yourself according to other people. But a self-realized soul becomes a law unto himself, because he has contacted the Lord within directly. So it's not that he's the law, but his service to the Lord is driving him to act in a certain way. So he's not subject to all these external rules and regulations. So he has transcended them. He has reached the level of master. He creates rules and regulations. You know, you can go through the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam or through Bhagavad-gītā, and you can find so many religious principles. I mean, honestly, you could start 50 different religions from the different religious principles expressed in those books. And they would all be valid religions. But what we're doing here is not religion. What we're doing here transcends religion, because it's a direct relationship with God himself, person to person. And Nectar of Devotion is the description